Kenneth,
What's up? What's up?
good to see you, my friend. How are you?
Hey, very good.
It's
It's
been
been a while.
forever.
Yeah, man, always a pleasure to catch up, man. I was looking forward to it. Hey, is my background not too distracting? There are like
No, it's all
buddies
fine.
over there smiling at
It's
us.
all fine. It's all fine. It's not as big a deal. How do you
I
how
mean,
do you also told me that you did some pro bono
yeah,
during the mid phase
yeah,
in terms of building digital strategy, digital marketing strategy. How do you
yeah.
go about that? How do you go about, or even at in the current position, right? How do you go about building a digital marketing strategy or a digital
Yeah.
strategy in that sense? What's the starting point? How do you think that through?
You have to look, well, so people like you and me, right? Like I think I can speak for people like you and me, and the roles that we do, the experience that we come from, right? We're likely people to keep up with what's going on in the world, especially on the consumer experience side of things, right? So you basically see these things in the world and you see where the world is moving, how things are being done. You pay attention to your own consumer behavior, and because we come sort of from a learned background,
Mm.
right? Like we see the strings to the puppet show, you know what I mean? And then you see these brands or these companies not moving with that. You just start seeing the gaps, and you just start exploring those gaps, and then kindly and diplomatically putting it forward like, listen, you have gaps here. Would you would you like me to help with that? It's just kind of that simple,
Yeah.
a conversation like that. But might be times, like people on the company side, or let's say on the management side now, work for Bata Industrials, and they just see what's going on, but they just don't have the in-house talent to deal with that, right?
Mm.
So they bring you in, like, listen, we see these movements going on, and we know that we need to catch up, or we need to like increase the momentum on the digital transformation that we start, for example, right? How do we do that? How to react to that, or how to make a company basically skate to where the puck is going, because you don't want to stay in this reactive mode forever, right? It's also like what's in the DNA of the company. Actually, like maybe like day one, actually before day one, I was already in like regular meetings with my now manager, because they invited me like, yeah, listen, we're thinking about starting this D2C channel, and like we're a completely B2B driven business, but we think we really want to do this because we want to get in touch with the end consumer. We don't know anything about, Bata Industrials being a producer of safety shoes and work socks and inlay soles. We don't know what they want, not from them. We kind of know it through our dealers. That's all filtered through, of
Yeah.
course, right? But we want to get in touch with that person that wears our shoes themselves, right? So we're thinking of doing this. But then in the beginning, it was still a lot of like, okay, there was a lot of excitement, like let's explore the space and all that, but was still a little bit of trepidation, like, yeah, but our dealer, and this might sound familiar to you, but our dealer network won't be happy with us going D2C, right? And I think for every legacy B2B driven brand, this will
Yeah.
sound very, very familiar, right? Well, you have to go along with that, in a way that where it's like you have to be as sensitive as your management is, or whoever has been there for a while, or sales who still sell B2B only. You have to have a sensitivity to that side of the argument, and you have to develop a strategy that doesn't cannibalize that part. I basically actually the first few months, besides building a business case for the D2C channel, and like, what will we gain with it, and also like what will we have to invest in it for an MVP and all of that. How will we do this MVP? What's the scope of it, et cetera, et cetera. I also basically developed a framework, how B2B and D2C can basically reinforce one another, how it can form a symbiotic relationship, basically. I think, and I spent quite a few weeks, months just crafting sort of an internal storytelling,
Yeah.
to just take those people with, well, to have everyone embark on that same journey, still leave room for hesitation, trepidation, little bit, people still scared and all that, because, like, especially sales,
Yeah.
they'll receive complaints all the time, like, oh, we see your website live and we're not happy with that. Oh, we see you advertising on Google Shopping, we're not happy with that, But then, yeah, I spend a lot of time basically, you have to give them some sort of an example of where it has worked before. And I was able to do that through like my Adidas experience.
Yeah.
At some point, you also need to start making clear, like, well, it is a choice. It is a choice to basically subscribe to this channel strategy and then just make it happen. And the thing is, you can keep looking outwards for like, oh, where have they done this before? Where has it gone successfully? But the thing is, one, even the brands that have been on that journey for a long while, like Adidas, right? Because I think, when I joined the company, it was still a primarily B2B driven business. I think I was there in the
Very
first
early
year
days.
that Adidas started e-commerce.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the numbers, since it's a publicly traded company, you can find those, right, if you really want to. But I think in the first year, like e-commerce was maybe like 0.3% of the revenue. I think by the time that I left, at least, I know somewhere around 18, 19% or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But I was able to put that in a very simple graph that for the salespeople, for example, like, listen, if you put that in the pie chart, it looks like D2C is cannibalizing B2B. But if you put that in a bar chart of absolute numbers, you saw that the B2B business, so selling through the Foot Lockers and the JDs and all of that of this world and the Intersports, right? That business grew even more in absolute numbers.
Yeah.
Adidas haven't gone D2C, to be honest, and the whole hype mechanics with the Yeezys, and what was there before Yeezy? Maybe Futurecraft and
The 4D.
Yeah, 4D, exactly that sort of thing. But also even Ultra Boost, which wasn't never real positioned as a hype product, but it caused a lot of hype.
Yeah.
You know.
Pharrell Williams and stuff.
Yeah, and I think that what is also what really helped make the B2B side of things grow, you know what I mean? And so I used that story basically to show about Industrials. Like, listen, because every story is a bit different. Every company's DNA is just unique, you know what I mean? Every company's ecosystem, sellers, suppliers, whatever, is their own DNA, and you just have to create your own story.
The content expert. I don't know what you do today, but also in terms of
more.
You don't have to be lazy with content production, but you could still be more spontaneous, pragmatic, guerrilla style, amateur, and that would still work. Or I think that's the way going forward. Yeah,
and I think also, one trend or evolution that that we could already see, like in a previous company where we were together, right? Like, I think a lot of that creative talent is being brought more and more in-house. And a company like Adidas saw that light like quite a while ago already. Although for them, let's say when they embarked on their journey, right? Maybe even that realization came a little bit late.
Yeah.
But it came at some point. I see that now happening within Bata Industrials as well. It's like, okay, you know what? Like, I mean, we don't really have the resources to create all that content that we want to create externally. But we have talent in-house that, oh my God, like they have some background in photography, they have some background in design, maybe not even some, maybe quite a lot. Like, why don't we just, pull some equipment together, block a day or two, or maybe just a part of a day. And, we do go through the motions, we create scripts, we make shot lists, we make storyboards, right?
Yeah.
Because you still go out there with a plan,
but
still more guerrilla style, and then you still get content that's like, okay, like this is great content. This will work for the channels that we want to use it for, so.
Yeah, I think that's also one big reason influencer marketing is becoming bigger and bigger. In terms of, I don't think brands were spending as much on influencer marketing 5 years ago versus it's still not a big chunk of your marketing spend in terms of what it was 5 years ago versus what it is today. I think with influencer marketing, it also becomes more home style and it becomes part of your life and people that you trust. And that's the only way that brands can, or one of the big ways that brands can build trust today, by not really trying to be overtly flashy about things, but on a more human level, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Like it's just connecting on a more human level, right? I think, I spend a lot of my time talking about where is this product being used and why do we not create content in that context? Because people just want to have some sort of frame of reference, or they have a frame of reference, let's put it that way. So they want to see what you're selling, what you're trying to sell to them in that frame of reference.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it's like, do you really understand me? Do you brands understand me as a consumer?
Yeah.
And I think showing that in context is the first way to sort of bridge that, make that connection. So yeah.
You also have a producer background. How do you deal with finding this sweet spot between using data, but
Mm.
also using it only until a limit that it not inhibits your innovation or your sort of balancing data with creativity?
You have to decide for yourself, for your team, for your company, like which data will actually inform your actions. So if you're collecting data that you're never going to use because it's either too esoteric or you don't have the resources to really action on that, your strategy or your roadmap or the activations that you're planning, the style of activation that you're used to makes no use of that data, unless you think you're gonna grow your analytics team and your activation team like in the very short term. Well, if you have the opportunity to collect that data and store it somewhere, then why not? But it probably makes no sense to go the extra mile for that if you're not using it. And then also, just don't use it. Just don't look at it if you know that you can't action it. So that's one thing, right? If you're in a role or at a place where they haven't been doing data driven digital marketing yet, you do need to introduce that first, right? You need to introduce that culture. You need to educate people of why do you do things in a data driven way in 2023. Because you can't really rely on your belief system or that's the way we've always done it anymore, because the world is changing way too fast for that, and generations change way too fast to that. You know what I mean? Like, generations used to be, like age brackets of 20 years. And now I think generations are age brackets of like 3 years.
Yeah, 3 to 5.
I
think five is too much already.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe shorter.
So, you have to, you have to nurture that culture first, right? And I really liked your comment about, how do you not make it like drive yourself crazy, or what's the phrasing that you use? Like, get like have your own thinking get in the way, because of all the data that you get, right? I think ultimately you have to use it for your storytelling. I think even internal storytelling. Like, people are not really swayed by facts or numbers, but if you can make it tell a compelling story that touches on what they know, or that makes use of what they know, or places it in their frame of reference, then you can get people to get along with you.
Yeah.
So I think that is the trick. Yeah.
That's a really good point for me.
Yeah.
I worked in analytics. I use data in only two ways. Number one is to sort of only measure things where you can actually action a change. Otherwise, don't. Irrespective, however simplistic that data point is, I don't care because I cannot do anything about that.
Right.
I don't want to have legacy data and have tons of data sitting in my database that I cannot use.
Exactly.
Also, I think with GDPR and with third-party cookies and filing of these pixels and stuff is just going to get more and more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
That would also mean that a lot of data that you have collected until this point in time is anyways going to become non-compliant it becomes non-consensual data that brands hold.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So it just really doesn't make sense to invest effort, whatever, into that. And that's my way of looking at the whole data thing. And if it helps you, and the second way that we use it is if it helps you build a story in terms of, okay, this is what we are doing and this is how it is helping, because it sort of provides you some kind of a milestone saying, okay, this is how we are performing. And if that helps you build the story to the senior management, if it helps your people to not get in the way of your own working, and if it's helping supplement or complement their work, we use it. Otherwise you have to eventually find a sweet spot saying, okay, this is too much. We are overcomplicating versus saying, okay, this is what we do, this is how we use it. But when we use it, we really action a change with that data. Otherwise, we let it go. That's my way of looking at data. Is B2B marketing fun? It's also be really different from B2C.
Yeah, yes and no. I think even B2B personas, let's say, right? They are more and more behaving like D2C personas. Like, people don't want to be cold called anymore or be approached with like, hey, I have something to sell you. You know what I mean? They do their own research first. And you want to draw them into a sales funnel, you know, and you want to put out content, right, out there that attracts that type of person or that type of search behavior, let's say, right? So, I mean, ultimately, whether it's B2B or D2C, you just kind of have to crawl into the head of that person, right? It's like, what is it that they need? You know, what is it that they're looking for? What is it that they need in that point of their consumer journey? That's what it all boils down to, I think, you know. And sure, whether, you know, that person is B2B or D2C, that, you know, maybe changes the ecosystem to a certain extent. It changes the mechanic that you would use to draw that person in, right? But ultimately, it's still crafting that journey and just like figuring out what draws them in, and then like, okay, well, what are the mechanics then to keep reeling them in until I get them, you know, to the point of conversion. So you know, that's the craft of what we do. You know,
Irrespective of if it's D2C or B2B.
But the thing is, like, you know, at least for me in my position, I look for like, you know, how do you set yourself apart from the competition, right? And people have not really gotten onto that like new mindset, you know, like the digital mindset, the agile, iterative ways of working mindset, data-driven mindset. You know, the whole business just doesn't operate like that. And I think there's the opportunity to like, okay, you know, if you do start to behave like that and you become special in that way, you know how to stand out in that way. I think that is what I'm looking for at Bata Industrials, and that's what I'm, what I'm doing, what I'm trying to do at Bata Industrials.
Cool, Kenneth. Thank you so much, man. Super interesting to speak to you, as always.
Yeah, always.
I remember we speaking together. I remember we had quite a deep discussion once in one of the meeting rooms at Adidas, when both of us were done with the brand. We were like, things are not working, and I remember having sort of a really deep conversation as well. But always extremely happy talking to you, and thank you for taking the time out.
Yeah, man, you're welcome. Yeah, we got to do this again sometime.
We should do this again.